Hello, I'm Citrus, and you're looking at the high-grade Gundam Base Limited Hyaku Shiki Gold Coating. This kit came out in November 2018, and it retails for a massive 4,000 yen. And like it says on the box, it is a special edition with a gold coating. This is without a doubt my most anticipated kit of 2018 because I have been waiting for this since the high-grade Hyaku Shiki Revive was originally announced in 2015. I waited 2 years before buying one, hoping for Bandai to make one, and last year I gave up. I snatched one up cheap on Mandrake, I put it together, and then a couple months after my video went up, this was announced. So, does it hurt? Yeah, a little bit. But hey, at least I have this now instead of not having it. And it is gorgeous. I don't expect this to take very long, mostly because I've already built this once, so I don't have to spend too much time figuring out how everything goes together. But also because it's this really nice shiny chrome gold, so I won't have too much to paint on top. I'm not even sure if I can really safely top coat this, so I'll be thinking about perhaps applying a gloss coat over the finished kit to preserve the shine, but I wouldn't want to mess up anything and ruin the finish in the process. Everything in here is exactly the same as it was in the original Hyaku Shiki. There's not like a special pedestal or anything that comes with this, as far as I'm aware. At the very least, my box doesn't include one. And aside from the difference in the gold, this kit also has some metallic red parts. And this is sort of the same gunmetal gray, no difference here. And metallic blue. I was kind of hoping that these colors would have stayed the same, that they wouldn't have touched this. But maybe it won't look too bad. Double bagged. Since this kit is chrome, I think it's worth looking at the plates again, at least the gold parts, just so we can familiarize ourselves with the nubs and exactly where they'll be showing up on the kit. As a refresher, the Hyaku Shiki is undergated for the most part. So in most areas of the kit, we should have all of the nubs completely hidden. This is almost blinding to look at in person. I'm very fortunate to have the camera in front of my face because if I didn't, the light would be bouncing straight off of my lamp into my eyeballs, and that would be very painful. I think I may have mentioned this in my regular Hyaku Shiki review, but it looks like the arms are really going to be the worst parts. So you see this piece right here, which is the biceps, and the gate just goes straight onto the sides right there. Yeah, and these nubs just go straight into... Yeah, these just go straight into the sides of the cuff. Doesn't look too nice. That goes straight into the side of the shoulder, although there should be a little flap that covers up that one. This piece for this, the back of the leg looks pretty okay. Yeah, and there's a pretty big nub right here on the sides of the forearm. I'm also going to try and see how well Gundam Marker sticks to this, because there are a couple of bits that I do need to put some red paint on, specifically on the shoulders here, inside of the little triangles. So if the paint sticks well, that'll be great. The paint will take some time, but we can first see if maybe the stickers will look good. Okay, so I just stuck that on halfway. You can see it looks pretty bad. There's a lot of all that white space, and the sticker actually not being shiny and just catching all of the light is really what's making it look really awful. So I'm gonna see if I can maybe find some water slide decals instead, and if I don't have any, then oh well. But yeah, that is pretty bad, so I'm going to take this off and we're not going to use these. To match the red on the shoulder triangles, we're going to try several colors. First is the metallic red Gundam Marker. And I know the cap makes it look like this is really bright, but I know from experience that the red takes on more of a color based on whatever it's going over. So on top of white, it looks a little bit pink, on top of dark, it'll be darker, so on and so forth. So we'll see how this looks on top of the gold. And next is the Char Red, which is not quite as dark as the metallic red plastic here, but at least from where I'm sitting, the temperature of the color seems about right, so maybe I can tone this down with a little bit of like black real touch afterwards, and it'll match this. Alright, so over here we have the metallic red and Char's red. Down here I have two patches, so this one is just the red by itself, and this one is the red with a little bit of real touch black over it. So if we compare it, we can see the metallic red is way too bright, so that's out, but the Char's red is pretty close, and it looks like in some lights with the real touch black it gets even closer. So I think that's the color we will end up going with. So I just put in the red, and after I clean it up, it should look pretty good. I really don't like wearing gloves in my videos because I think they look a bit creepy, but I had to do it this time to keep my fingers from smudging up the chrome. This takes away a lot of my manual dexterity, so I apologize in advance if my movements seem clumsier than usual. I know these are very cheap gloves. They were only $1.50 for 2 pairs from Daiso, so there's a ton of fluff on them, but they work just fine. We're skipping the accessories this time because they're completely identical between this kit and the normal Curry Shiki. So to keep this video neat and tidy, we dive straight into the real build. We start with the legs, which is the best part of this kit, and things kind of go south from here. The nub marks are best hidden on the legs because they're nearly all covered up by other pieces. Of course, that doesn't mean we can just speed through the parts prep here. We still need to be very careful when cleaning up the undergated parts to avoid gouging out more plastic than we need to. In fact, I thought this kit would be a quick build, but it really dragged itself out because the cleanup just took so long. One problem is that the gating doesn't compensate for the thickness of the metallic coating. Because of this, the coating pools and warps around each gate, just like it normally would on surface gates. Removing each one of these nubs leaves a little bit of a lip made of the coating material on the edge right next to the undergate. The lip is unsightly, but shaving it down chips the metallic coating around the gate, which is the whole problem that undergating was supposed to solve in the first place. I tried to fix these chips as much as I could, and we'll talk about how I did this later on. Speaking of chips, the plastic underneath the metallic coating is actually bright yellow instead of the usual black or translucent clear. As a side effect, I think the gold finish on this kit looks a little warmer than it does on other gold kits. I like the effect. Bandai likely also used the yellow plastic to hide inevitable nub marks a little better. But honestly, I think they should have just spent more time laying out the parts to avoid all the nub marks in the first place. When it comes to nubs, the arms are absolutely the worst, with 7 marks completely visible on each arm. This section definitely could have used smarter gating. You probably noticed by now that my polycaps all look kind of mangled. I'm not sure what happened in the factory, but the whole polycap runner had tons of flash on it, as if the molds weren't sealed properly before they were injected. There were also tons of air bubbles in the polystyrene runners, more than I'd ever seen in any other kit I've built before. Many of these air bubbles also came dangerously close to the parts, which meant I was dangerously close to receiving misshapen pieces. I really hope I just had bad luck with mine, because quality control should never be this ropey on a premium kit like this. If you buy something like this with damaged parts, you'd have a really hard time getting replacements, because literally no one services overseas replacement parts orders with any reliability. You'd be lucky to receive new parts in 3 months, if ever. Anyway, here's the completed shiny Shiki spinning around. I hope my lighting is doing this kit justice because it's really gorgeous even with all of its problems. Fortunately, I don't think the nub marks are too visible, but that'll change once we take a closer look. We all know that these two kits are the exact same size, but the shiny Shiki looks shorter. I have black cabinets hanging over my lamps, and the dark reflections are probably making the shiny Shiki look a little smaller than it actually is. Obviously, I've done a lot more paintwork to my Curry Shiki here on the right, but it almost doesn't matter, because the shiny Shiki catches the light so well that the reflections highlight all the surface details nearly as much as paint does. A good example is the head. If you have a light source angled down towards it from above, the curved surfaces will shine brightly, but the cheek vents are shadowed, so look appropriately dark, as if they had been painted. And on the subject of paint, this is what I use to cover up all the nub marks. The Craftsmart Gold matches the temperature of the shiny Shiki pretty closely, and it blends in fairly well when the nub mark is completely smooth and light isn't shining directly on it. I recommend using the extra fine tip pen for maximum control. Be very careful when you apply the paint, because it's oil-based. Any errant marks are basically impossible to remove without damaging the chrome coating. The same goes for using Gundam markers as well. Trying to remove Gundam marker will probably not strip the chrome coating itself, but you will lose the clear yellow layer on top of it that actually makes the kit look gold. For these reasons, unless you have the steadiest of surgeon hands, I strongly advise against detailing this kit at all to prevent damaging the chrome. So now that we made our shiny Shiki look nice, we get to play with it. But not really. The shiny Shiki moves exceptionally well, just like the Curry Shiki. The shoulders are much tighter than they were before, thanks to the coating thickening up the ball joints substantially, but the rest of mine is a bit floppier than it should be due to my crappy polycaps. In spite of this still isn't a kit you'd want to mess with very much given how easily the chrome picks up fingerprints. If I weren't wearing gloves right now, this kit would be a huge smudgy mess. And let's not talk about how maybe Bandai could have included water slide decals for the shoulders, so we didn't have to either settle for the ugly clear stickers or hunt down our own decals from who knows where. Come on, this kit costs 4,000 yen. That's more than a master grade GM command. Are just 2 little water slide decals too much to ask for? At this point, it probably sounds like I hate this kit, but I don't. Maybe I'm just trying to convince myself that I didn't make a bad purchase, or maybe the shiny chrome plastic just brings me back to a happier, simpler time. In the end, this kit was more or less exactly what I expected it to be, and I like it. A skilled builder can certainly do better with paint, but I'm lazy, and for how good this looks next to my other Zeta high grades, I really can't complain. That said, it's hard for me to recommend the shiny Shiki over the normal release, especially if you were to pick up only one of these. The Curry Shiki is less than half the price, is much easier to build, and you can detail it however you want without the fear or guilt of ruining a premium finish. You'd have to really hate the metallic plastic, and really not want to paint, and be okay with a master grade price tag on a high grade for the shiny Shiki to make any sense for you. And unfortunately, I just happen to be one of those people. That's all for this review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Peekaboo. 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 Stop it, Mom. Now.